Hey, what's up, chat? Mr. Redmond here. Today we are going to be going over the answers to the study guide. Hey, so the best way to utilize this video is to make sure you have attempted to do each of the problems on your own. Okay, if you are looking at this for the first time, which you should not be, but in terms of the study guide itself, if you're looking at it for the first time, hey, what I would do is I would go through each question, make sure you would answer it if you want to go along with me. So do the first problem, then watch the first problem, then do the next problem, then watch the next problem. Again, this is not at all helpful for you if you are only just watching it, okay? And so I'm gonna move relatively quickly through this, so this video is not an hour long. I'm gonna set all of them up. You need to be doing this on your own on the Desmos calculator, certainly. I'm not gonna be pulling it up for the sake of time. In addition, the last thing that I want to say is do not replace punching it into the calculator for just showing your work. Don't replace that. You need to do both, okay? So you do need to use the calculator, but everything you're entering on the calculator should be written on your paper, okay? In order for you to be successful on this test, you need to make sure that you show your work. All right, now let's get to work. So question number 1, it says use the diagram below to find the degrees of both angles, okay? So I need to know the relationship between these two angles. They are supplementary because they add up to equal 180. They make a straight line, okay? So this angle plus that angle equals 180. So 2x plus 11 plus 3 times the sum of 2x and 3, and that is gonna equal 180, okay? Now to solve that, I'm then going to take this 3, I'm gonna distribute to both of the terms inside. So 3x times 2x is gonna give me 6x. 3 times 3 is gonna give me 9. Then I'm just gonna bring everything else down. Now when I get here, I need to combine the like terms. So I'm going to put circles around the first two set of like terms, then I'm gonna put a box around the other set, all right? Remember, this is an equation and I gotta keep whatever on this side. I can't combine this because it's on the other side of the equation. So combine the 2x and the 6x, that gives me 8x. The 11 and the 9, that gives me 20. That equals 180, just bring that down. Now I gotta do the inverse operation to get the x by itself. I'm gonna subtract 20, that gives me 0 pairs, leaving me with 8x equals 180 minus 20, that's 160, divide by, again, I'm gonna do the inverse operation again, divide by 8, and that is gonna give me x equals 20. Now, that is not an answer choice, okay? If you get this wrong, it will be because you think you're done here, and you're not. All right. What we got to do now is we are looking for the measures of degrees for both angles. So I need to take this x and I need to plug it in. Okay. So there's 2 ways I could do that. I could do 2 times 20 plus 11. Okay, and then 3 parentheses. Now when I do that, I got to make sure I do PEMDAS, okay? So that's really what I'm doing. Or you can just plug it into the Desmos calculator where you tells it 2x plus 11, then you tell it x equals 20. And then you write 3 times the sum of, just write it as it is, and then tell it x equals 20. And that is how you end up with getting 51 and 129. Again, 2 times 20 is 40. 40 plus 11 is 51, all right? And then 2 times 20, 60 plus 3, 63, and then 63 times 3 will give us 129, all right? Moving on, okay? I gotta be a little quicker so this doesn't get too long. I need to know the relationships between these, and they are vertical because they are across from each other, and that means that they are equal, okay? They're equal to each other, so we set them equal. 4x plus 45 equals 7x plus 33, okay? And so now, all right, I got this equation. Now I gotta solve for the x by getting the x by itself, moving everything to one, all the letters to the one side, numbers to the other side. we've always moved it to the left side. You can move it to the right side, all right? But I'm just gonna, for the sake of consistency, move it to the left side. So to do that, this is a positive 7x over here, so I gotta do the opposite of that. So I'm gonna subtract 7x on both sides. These are gonna cancel, giving me 0 pairs. 4 minus 7 is gonna give me a negative 3x plus 45 equals 33. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to get rid of the plus 45, so I'm gonna subtract 45. I'm gonna subtract 45, and when I do that, the 45 gives me 0 pairs. I got negative 3x equals 33 minus 45 is gonna give me a negative 12. Okay, and then from there, I'm gonna divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. The negative 3's are going to cancel, and that leaves me with negative 12 divided by negative 3 equals 4. Hey, the key here is when you are dividing by, when you have this negative 3 out in front, that's not a minus 3x, that's a negative 3x. You have a number next to a letter, and that means multiplication, so I got to divide by the negative. Okay, so make sure you remember that. All right, hey, moving on. So Ron went to his favorite snow cone spot and got a snow cone with cotton candy in the shape of his cone. Find the amount of the ice in the ice cream cone. So, hey, what you have to remember is, listen, whenever I'm talking about filling something up, the amount of stuff, something in a figure, that is volume. And if I'm talking about the outside covering something up, that is surface area. Okay, so those are the two formulas that you're gonna need to remember. Filling something up, if I'm talking about the inside, I'm talking volume. So even though this question didn't ask about the volume, that's what I am looking for. And the shape I have is the cone. I'm gonna go to my formula sheet, find the volume formula for the cone, and it is 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. Okay, and then I'm gonna tell it what I gotta figure out what r equals. R equals the radius. The radius goes from the outside of the circle to the middle. That is 4. The height is 5. And so then I'm just gonna put this, I can plug this straight into Desmos. V equals 1/3 pi r squared. Then go to the next line, tell it r equals 4. Then go to the next line, tell it h equals 5. And when I do that, it is gonna give me 83.77. And I gotta round that to the nearest, I'm rounding it to the nearest whole, so the answer would be A there. All right, moving on. Elizabeth plans to cover a pyramid-shaped prop for a play. Again, key word there, she's covering, all right, with colorful paper. The prop has a square base. Okay, so we got a square base measured 24 inches. Okay, so 24 inches. Then the height of the triangular face is 30 inches. Okay. Determine the total amount of paper she needs to cover. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Remember what I just said in the previous question. When you are talking about covering something, you are talking about surface area. Okay, and the problem said it was a pyramid, so I'm looking for the surface area of a square base pyramid. Well, the formula, when I go to my formula sheet, is 1/2 LP plus big B. So then I need to figure out what L and P is. Well, L is the slant height, okay? And if you will remember, the slant height is the height that's along the triangle, okay? That is the slant. So this triangle is the slanted figure, the height of that triangle. So the slant height is the 30, okay? Because again, it is the height of the triangle. That's what the slant height is, okay? Perimeter, okay? The perimeter is the perimeter of the base. Well, the square base has 24, that's the side. So to remember to find the perimeter, we're taking 4 because the square has 4 sides and we're multiplying it times the side. So in other words, you have to remember P equals 4S, and the side in this instance is the 24. Okay, so 4 times 24, and that's gonna give us 96. Okay, so that is our perimeter. Then the big B, again, the big B we're talking about, we have a square, so it is side square. So I'm taking whatever my side is of the square, okay, because that's the shape at the bottom, that's the base, it's a square. To find the area of the square, I'll do S squared. And so my side is 24. And so I'm gonna do 24 squared, okay? And so 24 squared is gonna give me 576. And then I plug that into decimals. So I got 1/2, remember you cannot put SA in decimals, but you're gonna do 1/2 LP plus big B. And then you tell it L equals 30, P equals 96, B, big B equals 576. And when you do so, you're gonna get 2,016 meters. I'm sorry, that's inches squared, and that answer is D. All right, moving on. A cylinder and a cone have the same base and same radius. So we got a cylinder and a cone with the same base, the same radius and the same, it should be the same area or the same height and the same radius. Sorry. If the volume of the cylinder is 90 cubic inches, then what is the volume of the cone? All right, so we're talking about the volume of a cylinder, which is pi r squared times the height. And then we're talking about the volume of a cone, which is 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. Now, when we talked about the relationship between a cone and a cylinder, if we just look at the formulas, we see that they are the exact same. The only difference is for the cone, I gotta multiply it times 1/3. In other words, it takes 3 cones to equal the cylinder. So if I know, again, this is the cylinder, and this is the cone, and if I know that the volume of the cone is, the volume of the cylinder is 90, what that means is I know what this part of the formula is. So if I know that this is 90, I know pi r squared times the height is going to give me 90. So all I have to do to find the volume of the cone is to take that 1/3 and multiply it times that 90. Again, because I know this piece right here is 90 because it gives me that. It says the volume of the cylinder is 90. All right. And then when I do that, I'm going to end up with 30. So the answer is A there. All right. Question number 6. What is the volume? Okay, so I know I'm looking for volume, not just volume of a square. I'm looking for volume of a square base pyramid. Okay, so I could go ahead and write my formula for the volume of a square base pyramid. And that is 1/3 times big B times the height. Okay, so I need big B and I need the height. Well, with a base side length of 6 centimeters, the slant height, so the base side length is 6, the slant height is 5, and then the height is 4. Okay, so big B, I'm talking about a square pyramid. The big B is the area of the square. Okay, so big B I always find by doing S squared. All right, well, I gotta find the S is the side of the base, which is 6. So I gotta do 6 squared. Okay, and that's gonna give me 36. Then the height. The height, okay, I have 2 heights. I have slant height is 5, then I have height is 4. Here, for volume, I just need the height, not the slant height. Slant height is L, I'll need the H. So the height is 4. And so then I just plug that in. 1/3 times big B, which is 36, times the height. And that is going to give me 47.99, which I round that up. That's going to give me a 48. All right, moving on. Find the volume of the shape. Okay, so I'm looking for volume. All right, and then what shape do I have? Well, that's a cone. So I'm going to start by writing my formula for the for the volume of a cone, which is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. And then I need to figure out what the radius is. The radius is 6 because it goes from the outside to the middle. And then the height is 17. And then I just plug it in. And then once I plug that in, it's going to give me 640.88. And so my answer is B. Okay, simple as that. All right, moving on. Question number 9. Olawale and Trevor are putting up a tent in the shape of a square-based pyramid. So we got a square-based pyramid. That's important. The side length of the tent is 8 feet. Okay, so that's the side length of the tent. And then the slant height is 7 feet. What's the total surface area? Okay, so we're looking for surface area of a square-based pyramid. I'm gonna go to my formula sheet and find the formula, which is 1/2 LP plus big B. Then I gotta figure out, okay, what is L? L is the slant height. The slant height is here, that is 7. What is the perimeter? Well, the perimeter is the sides along the base, so I gotta do 4S, and that is 4 times S is 8. Okay, so that is gonna give me 4 times 8. Okay, that gives me 32. I did this wrong in my previous workings of it. And then I got the big B. The big B is the area of the base. So I'm gonna do 8 squared, and that's gonna give me 64. And so then I'm gonna plug that in. And my answer was wrong here when I originally did it. So 1/2 times 7 times 32 times, I'm sorry, not times, 112 plus 64, and that's gonna give me 176. All right, and the answer is D. All right, okay, here we go. Mr. O is folding paper pyramids and putting candy in them for his party later to pass out to all the guests. Shout out to Mr. O. All of the pyramids start flat as shown. Find the total surface area. Okay, so I got it. It's a pyramid. I'm looking for surface area. Okay, so same thing. Start out with my formula, then I just got to figure out what each piece is. So the slant height, remember, the slant height is the height of the triangle. The height of the triangle, so my slant height is 3. To find the perimeter, I'm going to do 4S, which, 4S. And so the side, I multiply 4 times the side of the square, and that's going to be 4 times 4 because that's the length of the square. And then for big B, I am finding the area of the base, which is the square, so it's going to be S squared. So the side is 4, so it's 4 squared. That also is going to give me 16. Okay, so then I just plug those in. 1/2 LP plus B, big B, L equals 3. P equals 16, big B also equals 16. When I plug all of that in, it's gonna give me 40 inches squared. So the answer is A there. All right, moving on. Mr. Eden is putting up lights in his house to get to the roof. He leaned the 12-foot ladder against the house at the base of the ladder 6 feet away from the wall using the information how tall the side of the house round to the nearest hole. All right, so excellent. I have a picture here, and I am looking for how tall the house is, right? Looking for the X. So when I have a triangle, okay, I know this is a right triangle, so I can use Pythagorean theorem. All right, so Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, you're gonna pretty much, anytime you have a triangle, that's what you're gonna need to be using. All right, so X and 6 are my legs. That's the A and B. So I don't know what A is. Okay. B is 6 squared equals 12 squared because that's C. All right. And I know that's C because it's always the longest one. Right. So then X squared, 6 squared is 36. 112 squared is 144. Okay. And so then I just subtract. I'm trying to get the X by itself. Subtract 36, subtract 36. Those are going to cancel. X squared equals 144 minus 36. And that is going to give me 108. Okay. And then I just got to get the X by itself, I'm going to do the square root of both sides. That's going to get rid of the squared. And that is going to give me square root of 108. Is going to give me 10.39, and when I round that to the nearest whole, I'm going to get 10, okay, because it rounds down to 10. All right, Mr. Lassane lives in city city A and wants to drive to his friend's house in the city B. Hey, you know what? For the sake of time, again, I'm gonna stop. I'll continue reading. Sorry, I was gonna stop reading it, but I'm gonna keep going. To city B, unfortunately, the road was blocked, so Mr. Lassane had to drive to city C to get around. The distance from city A to city C and the city B are shown below. What's the information? How far are they apart? So again, I am looking for this distance, how far they are apart, okay? And so this is a right triangle because I have that square there. So I'm gonna use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And what's given to me are the A and the B because those two together form the right angle and the hypotenuse is across, okay? So I'm looking for C. So I'm gonna do 11 squared plus 14 squared plus equals what I don't know, which is C squared, all right? So then when I square both of those numbers, 11 squared plus 14 squared, that's gonna give me, I didn't do this, so let me do this now. 11 squared is 121 plus 14 squared is 196 equals C squared. Then I gotta add these two together. And when I add those two together, I'm gonna get 317 equals C squared. Now to get rid of the C squared, I gotta take the square root. That's gonna just give me C. And the square root of 317 is gonna be 17.8, which is B. All right. What's the value of X that makes a triangle below a right triangle? Okay, so right triangle, I'm using A squared plus B squared equals C squared to figure out the sides of my triangle. And I gotta figure out, okay, do I have A and B? Well, this looks like the longest, this would be the right angle, so I'm looking for C. Okay, so this is A, 40 is 40 squared plus B, 9 squared equals C squared. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. And then when I multiply these, 40 squared is gonna give me, 1600 plus 9 squared is 81. And then when I add those two together, that's gonna give me 1681 equals C squared. And then I gotta do the square root, that's gonna give me C equals 41. And D is my answer there. All right. Now again, so for all of these triangle questions, you just got to know which sides you have. Okay. And again, what I will remind you when you're doing it is, again, the legs. Those are what make the right angle. Okay. So I know this is A and B because that makes the right angle. And then C is always across from that right angle. That's my hypotenuse, okay? So in this one, I'm looking for A. I have B, and that is C, okay? So we're gonna say, we'll just keep it A. A squared plus B squared is gonna be 8. I'm just plugging in the values. C is 10, so that's gonna be 10 squared, okay? So then A squared plus 8 squared is 64 equals 10 squared is 100, okay? Then I am going to get in the 80 by itself, subtract 64, those are gonna cancel. A squared equals 100 minus 64, that's gonna give me 36. Then I do the square root of both sides to get the A by itself and get rid of that square. So we got square root of 36 is 6, so my answer is B. All right. Again, here's the key, right? I need to be able to know what are my sides. And you'll have a question like that where you can identify. Again, the two sides that make the right angle, those are the legs. Okay, so both of those are the legs. And then the side that is across from the right angle, that is the hypotenuse. All right, easy peasy. All right, moving on. Hey, so for this question right here, again, what are the four triangles? One of them is a right triangle. Well, to figure out which one is a right triangle, I know it's a right triangle if it follows the Pythagorean theorem, okay? So what I'm gonna do, again, remember Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So what I need to do is I need to say, okay, this is A and B. So 6 squared plus 8.1 squared equals 10.5 squared. And what I got to do is I got to do this part and then see if it equals to 10.5 squared. Okay, that's one way to do it. Or I could do these two squared, find what that is, and then take the square root and see if that equals 10.5. Okay, so what I'm doing is, again, I'm checking each of these to see, does it equal, when I take A and B, and I square them, does it equal C squared? So once you do that, again, for the sake of time, I'll just show you how to set up each of them. And then I'll just give you what the answer is. Okay? Because again, I'm not going to do all of them. But here, when I go to C is the correct answer. 5.5 squared. Okay, that gives me 30.25. Okay, and then 7.5 squared, that gives me 56.25. Okay, now, so I can do one or two things. I can do 30.25 plus 56.25. And when I do that, I get 86.5. Okay, now I could take the square root of that. And if I take the square root of that, that gives me 9.3. Or I could see, okay, when I do 9.3 and I square 9.3, that gives me 86.49, okay, which is, okay, I know this is really close. If I round this up, then I'm going to get 86.5. So C is the correct answer there, all right? So, again, you can take the square, or square both of these, and then add them, and then take the square root, all right? And that is how you get the answer there. All right, moving on. Using the figure below, which equation verifies the Pythagorean theorem for the triangle? Well, if I know this is 17, this is 17, I know that's 17. If all the other sides, I know that's 15. And then I know this is 8. So the sides of my triangle are 8, 15, and 17. Well, Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? A and B make the right triangle, or make the right angle rather, okay? And so 8 squared plus 15 squared, and then 17 is up. My hypotenuse is the longer side, okay? And then I'm just figuring out which matches that. And the answer would be A, all right? All right, moving on. Determine if the student gets the correct, the solution to the given linear equation, true or false, all right? So if I'm solving this, right, I'm looking at this, I'm trying to get the x's by itself. They started by getting rid of adding 4 to each side, okay? So that's right, because I got to do the inverse operation. That cancels those 4s, right? And that gives me 12, good. Now I got to get rid of okay, they're getting rid of the 7x. So they did minus 7x, but then they did plus 7x. So that part right there was incorrect, all right? So that would be false, all right? Because they should have subtracted from both sides and they added on one side, all right? Mr. Hines wants to purchase AirPods for $130. He has $50 set aside already. Every week he sets aside an additional $5. The equation that represents this situation. So this one actually just gives me the equation. Awesome. What does the solution x equals 16? Okay. So what does it mean in this context? So really in this one, I'm just trying to figure out, what does the x mean? Okay. Well, it says the x is with the 5. And so what happens, it says every week sets aside an additional $5. So every week is when I'm adding 5, all right? So I'm multiplying the number of weeks times 5, and so that is what gives me my answer. So x is the number of weeks, okay? Because again, that's what I'm multiplying by 5. All right, moving on. Bob has $50 in his bank account, and Joe has $130 in his. Each week, Bob deposits $20 in his account, and Joe deposits $10 in his. How many weeks will it take for Bob and Joe to have the same amount of money? All right, so we got Bob over here, and we got Joe. All right, so Bob has 50 in his bank account. Joe has 130. They both, that's where they start. Bob deposits 20 each week. So he's going to do plus 20, and each week is going to be 20x. So for every week is where x equals the number of weeks. Okay. And then it says Joe deposits 10 each week. Okay. And so those are my two equations for my two people. All right. When would they have the same amount of money? So I'm going to set these equal to each other, right? Because that's what I want to know. I want to know when would they have the same amount of money. Okay. So to do this, just like what we've been doing before, I'm going to get the x's by itself. I'm going to start by doing the inverse. I'm subtracting that. That's going to give me 10x plus 50 equals 130. Then I'm going to subtract the 50, again, that's 130, sorry, no, it should be 130. That cancels, and I have 10x equals 130 minus 50, and that is going to give me 80, all right? And then divide by 10, that cancels, leaving me with 8 weeks, and so that is the answer there, all right? A day ticket to go to Christmastown in Busch Gardens costs $85. Food costs an additional $30 per person, and parking costs $32 per family. How many family members visited the park if the total cost was $492? All right, so I'm gonna write an equation based on that. A ticket costs $85. So we're gonna, again, we don't know how many family members, so we're gonna say x is the number of family members. That's what we don't know. Okay. And then we're gonna write our equation based on what the problem gives us, all right? So we got each person has to pay for a ticket, so that's gonna be 85 times the number of people, right? Then it says food costs an additional $30 per person. So, okay, that means plus 30, but then each person also has to pay for food. Then it says parking costs 32 for the family. Well, not every person has to pay for parking because they're driving together, and then that is gonna equal the 492. So this is sort of my equation based on that context, right? So here I'm gonna combine the like terms. 85 plus 30 is gonna give me 115. X plus 32 equals 492. Okay, then I get rid of the 32 minus 32 on both sides. That cancels, leaving me with 115x equals 460. Then I'm going to divide that by 115, and that is going to give me x equals 4. All right, and so we have 4 family members that are attending. All right. Put the following in algebraic expressions into a verbal statement, okay? And so 8 less than the sum. So if I said 8 less than, that means I'm subtracting by 8 the sum of a number and 7. So that would be 7 plus a number, okay? So that's what that first one would be. That's not right, okay? 8 more than, that means I'm adding 8 to the quotient. Quotient means divide, so 7 and a number. That's not right, okay? The sum means I'm adding, okay, 7 and 8 and a number. 7 plus 8 plus a number. That's not right. Again, difference is I'm subtracting, so what am I subtracting? 7 times a number, so 7x. And the square root of 8. Square root of 8. That's my answer. All right. Question number 22. Select the equation that best matches the mathematical statement. 5 times the sum. So whenever I'm multiplying times the sum, I'm multiplying the sum. That means I have to put parentheses. that means I'm using parentheses. Okay, so 5 times the sum of 2x and so 2 and a number, so 2x and 5. Again, sum is adding. It is 105, and so my answer is A. Okay. Again, whenever you see, this is super important. Whenever you see you're multiplying or dividing, but we'll say multiplying by the sum or the difference. We're multiplying by the sum or the difference. Okay, that means we must use parentheses. All right. What is the value that makes these true? I just have to solve for x. I do so by combining these like terms. When I combine those, that's going to give me 3x plus 12 equals negative 27. Then I subtract 12. That cancels, leaving me with 3x equals negative 39. Divide by 3. X equals negative 13. Okay, and that's my answer. All right, and then for this next question, I'm gonna start by taking the 3/4. I'm gonna distribute it. 3/4 times 8m. When I distribute that, that's gonna give me 6m. So 3/4 times 8. Matter of fact, let me write that. 3/4 times 8m, and then we got 3/4 times negative 20. Okay, and that's gonna equal 9. When I multiply that, that gives me 6m. When I multiply that, that's gonna give me minus 15 equals 9. All right. So then add 15. Those cancel. 6m equals 24. Divide by 6. M equals 24. All right. So the answer is 8. All right. And then lastly, right, what's the equation that represents the model? Then solve it. All right, this is negative x plus 5 equals 3x minus 7. Okay, so then I just write that equation, and then I'm solving for the x. Okay, so I'm gonna move my 3 x's. Okay, that's gonna give me negative 4x. All right, plus 5 equals negative 7. Then I'm gonna do minus 5. That cancels, giving me with negative 4x equals negative 7 minus 5 is gonna be negative 12. Then divide by negative 4. Those are gonna cancel, leaving me with x equals negative 12 divided by negative 4 is 3. And so my answer is... All right, so was at least 30 plus minutes. So here's the deal. One thing I did not show you, which is extremely important, is for so many of these problems, you can actually plug your answer in and determine if it's right. So for instance, on this one, I could tell Desmos x equals 3. Then I put in this part of the equation, and I can figure out what that equals. Okay, so in other words, what I'm saying is for all of these problems, and I know I'm going to be mentioning this in classroom, but I'm going to make sure you can go back and check your answers by plugging them in and substituting them back into the problem. So for a lot of the problems, that is the case. I didn't show that here just for the sake of time, but that is a super important tip for you as you seek to check your work on the test. All right. So, hey, I hope this helped you. If you have any comments, any questions, feel free to reach out, and good luck on this Unit 5 test.